Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of FAB Entrepreneurs. We are talking about life changes and how it impacts your business this episode.
So perfect timing, really, because we're shooting this on New Year's Day, and we're both with family.
Yes.
So we're trying to keep it quiet, but if it does get a bit rowdy, you'll just have to forgive us. We've got cats and kids and family staying. So
Well, and so I actually moved yesterday on New Year's Eve, so my cats are more, vocal than usual.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Do they get in the way when you're trying to work, or is it just when we're trying to record that's been an issue?
No, okay, so like they're used to me working, and so I can usually get them to leave me alone. It's when I'm doing something that's unusual that they're like, "Hey, what's happening over here?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, this is New Year's Day, and we have been super busy with the holidays.
Yeah.
So I just moved in. I'm actually in my dad's space right now because my cats are so unhappy. But I moved into an apartment on my dad's property temporarily because I'm bad at planning out things. So I'm staying with him until I can find a new place. But we just had Christmas. Whatever holidays, there are so many holidays in December, whatever you celebrate. Plus, you have work in general.
I think a lot of people are probably in the same boat where they're finding there's a lot going on right now with family commitments. If you have kids, there's all the stuff you have to do at the end of term, and also planning out your business goals and your priorities for next year alongside just doing the regular maintenance routine work for your business can sometimes get a bit overwhelming. And then if you've got people staying or you're traveling to visit family, it just kind of all compacts and can get a bit much. So that's something we've been talking about, isn't it, Kristen? So we thought it would be a good idea to have this conversation online so that, you guys can see you're not alone. Everyone's going through this, especially if you are an entrepreneur, you're trying to manage your 1, 2, who knows how many businesses, and you've got all these other things going on right now. So what is it that we do to try and alleviate some of these issues?
Right, because if you're very lucky, you have a full-time job that lets you take off a week or two at the holidays, but I don't really think that is the case for most people. And if you have your own business, it's definitely not the case. I work from home, and actually holidays can be some of my busiest times. And that's not including all of the family obligations and social functions that I want to attend because, parties too.
You've got to live the life. Otherwise, what are we doing it for?
Exactly.
I should also mention that I'm moving as well. So that's something that I'm juggling at the moment. So I've been planning a move back to the US for the past few weeks. And now things are kind of really happening. My husband's already left to go back, and I'm finishing up stuff in the UK. We've got to get our house ready, and just, loads of admin, immigration issues. I'm sure there are people listening who have to deal with immigration issues, so you know how lengthy that procedure can be. So I'm dealing with a lot of paperwork as well as the general paperwork and admin that I have to do for my businesses. So that's another thing that I'm kind of contending with at the moment.
And plus, because your husband did leave a few days ago, you're basically a single mom now.
So I'm an almost single mom because my mom is here and she's doing the cooking and the laundry and loads of stuff to help me. But there's nothing she can do to help me with my business. Yeah, she can take the kids out for a few hours, which is a huge, huge help, but she can't do my work for me. So that still has to happen. And you're just also kind of like mentally taxed when you have people staying with you, or you're packing up your house for a move. You're not in the same headspace as you are usually. So it's difficult to kind of keep your mind focused on work when there's so much going on in your personal life.
Right, exactly. I think it can be so, at least for me, it can be so easy to just be like, well, I'm just not going to do this because I have so much going on right now.
Yeah.
That's the biggest struggle when you have your own business, is that you really you can't do that.
Yeah, for me it's not so much the motivation side, it's more the distraction side. Like I get very easily distracted, and I'm always, up for going to parties and functions and stuff like that. So if I have an invitation to go somewhere, it's not that I don't want to work on my business. It's just that, I want to go and have fun or whatever. And I get very easily distracted. And also when I'm at home and there's, conversations happening in another room, I want to go and join those conversations rather than go through my inbox. So that's what I find challenging, is the distraction over the holidays.
I actually find, for me, yes, there are distractions, and especially if you have guests over or if you're staying over at someone else's. But a huge problem for me is that I end up taking on a lot of work, and then I have a lot of deadlines, and that really butts up against a lot of obligations that I either have to do or want to do. And so the overwhelm for me really kicks in this time of year.
Do you feel that this is like an emotional overwhelm as well, rather than just like a physical, you have so much work to do and deadlines? Do you feel like emotionally you get overwhelmed?
Yes, because, well, the emotional overwhelm doesn't really come with work, but it does come with all of the family issues.
Yes.
Because, you have not just, well, I don't really have a family, it's me and the cats, right? But like, I'm suddenly seeing not only my parents and my siblings, but all of the extended family as well.
Yes.
And it's not like it's just one event, it's like multiple events, plus all of my friends, plus whatever else I want to do. And then on top of that, my lease was up at the end of December, and I didn't even have time to look for a new place. And because I was just so busy. And so that's very overwhelming. And right now I'm in a studio, but it is on the same property as my dad, and it's really far out of the city. And so like dealing with that too is like very overwhelming, because even though it's temporary, it's still my reality for right now.
Yeah.
And so, it can be a lot.
Both of us seem to orchestrate our leases to end around Christmas time, because I've noticed that I do this as well. And you get into a pattern of always having your lease come to an end in like December, which is completely impractical if you have children, because it's the middle of the school year as well. And then you have to move. And the place that we're moving into, my husband's moving into in January, I'm going to follow when I get my visa, but he's moving in on the 3rd of January. Luckily, it's a 13-month lease, so it will be February of next year that we have to try and move and find a new school for Zeke, but at least it's not Christmas. But until this year, my lease is pretty much run every January, so it's always like crazy for us to try and move. And you've done the same thing.
Yeah, I always pick somehow the coldest day of the year to move.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, it was 10 degrees outside, which is not normal for this area, and yet it was, and I was moving. And it's either Christmas or Thanksgiving that I usually end up moving. Like I don't know what it is. I just can't move at like a convenient time.
Yeah, we need to be better about planning out our personal life as well as we plan out our business life.
Right.
And we get them both on lockdown. That's the goal. 2018 goal.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm like not believing it. Like you can.
Oh yeah, happy 2018, by the way.
Oh yeah, happy New Year, everyone.
Because this is going to come out, it's Monday today, so this is going to come out on Wednesday, so we'll be kind of well into the new year by then.
Well, kind of. 3
days.
But
yeah, so these are the things that we've got working against us right now. Stay positive.
Yes.
I've also got my kids' schedules are a bit messed up because we've had people staying, and obviously with all the parties and the late nights and the food and everything, they're completely off schedule. So my 2-year-old, who usually naps for several hours during the day, is not napping right now, and they're not falling asleep at night. So I'm just really tired, and also not getting as much done because I don't have as many hours to work now that I used to have, like, outside of holiday times.
Yes. So I'm sure this is all of the different areas in which we're struggling. I'm sure we're actually struggling with more, and we just can't even think of it.
These are the ones we just listed.
Yeah.
So
just a few things that
yeah,
in business.
yeah. So taking time off versus working through those are two areas which we've identified as, like, kind of your options.
Yes.
What do you feel that you do, Kristen?
Yeah, so I definitely, in the past, and I've kind of changed things up this year. Actually, I feel like I've actually got a decent routine going the last like 2 weeks to kind of deal with everything, which I'll talk about in a minute. But typically what I do is I either ignore all of my emotional and personal commitments and life and just focus on my business. Or I completely drop the business part and I'm just like, whatever, I'm just going to go out and have fun. And there's not really a happy medium because I haven't been great at balancing my work and my personal life. And typically what I would do in the past is I was like, is this making me money today or very, very soon? And I'll do that. And if not, then I'll just drop it. I'm like, you know what, this can wait because it's not that important. And I've kind of done that a little bit the last few weeks, but not a lot, not as much as I have been. I have been actually hitting all of my commitments and parties and everything. Well, most about 90% there. And I've been also making all of my deadlines. I'm actually coming up early on my deadlines for work.
Go you.
Yeah, I have dropped a few non-essential things, but it's not like they're totally off the radar. It's like, well, I'm gonna have time next week, and so I'll address it then because this is not urgent. And I'm actually, going back to the question of like taking time off versus working through it. So when we take time off, that impacts our financial,
yes,
I don't know, but our financial status, I guess you can say, because we don't get paid time off. And I always like, that's so frustrating for me because everyone else in my family, for the most part, has a job and they can take, when they take a paid, it's paid, they get a paid holiday. And
and for us, it doesn't always represent the time that you're in currely. So if you kind of slack off now, you're not going to feel that for like a month or so.
Right.
So it feels like it's worth it because you're still living on what you made 2 months ago, but then 2 months from now, you're going to be in a bit of trouble.
Exactly.
So it's difficult to be like disciplinary about that.
Yeah. So how are you feeling on this topic?
So I don't really take time off per se. So because the nature of my industry is very cyclical, we work in seasons, and there's the design season and then there's the selling season. Once I've built up a larger client base, I'll hope to be selling every single day. But right now, I'm very much like design and then go to events and sell. So I have deadlines. I'm going to a show in January. I have a print deadline the 4th of January that I can't miss. So I don't have the option of taking time off. Maybe I could have planned out so that I could take some time off, but I chose not to do that. And I wanted to keep working. And also there's just been so much going on even throughout December that I couldn't stop working. I needed the physical time because of my situation with my childcare. I had to keep going and just do bits here and there whenever I could. So I haven't taken time off. I have just found the time and changed my schedule around to fit in with the events that are going on and the new things that I've had to deal with, really.
Yeah.
It's a goal though. I would love to be in a position where I can plan ahead 6 months and be like, oh, I'm going to take, the month of August off or something.
Yeah, that's the goal, I think, is, and I do take some time off, of course, and I'm happy to do that. But the goal is really to like, yeah, have that reserve like easily available so that you don't feel guilty taking time off, and your business will be fine without you being there, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's the promotional side of your business. Yeah, you might be able to kind of take some time off from designing or selling, but you still got to promote yourself. You can't just suddenly stop your feeds and things like that. Like, you do have to kind of have a presence. But then I think people expect that it's going to slow down over the holidays, and people maybe aren't as interested over the holidays, I have to say. Definitely consumers, unless they're buying presents in the new year, I don't know. I feel like it definitely tapers off a little right now.
I noticed a lot of personal accounts are becoming very personal. A lot of social media is becoming very personal because a lot of people are taking time off. And so I actually have let my feeds slack, and I haven't really been posting much because I figure, people don't really, I don't have a specific Christmas theme. I can't organize a photo shoot right now. I can't organize any of that. I have so much going on and everything is packed up anyway.
Yeah.
So I have let it slack. And actually, it hasn't seemed to impact that much. In fact, my sales are up. So
I think
don't
the
know.
way I feel about it is, once you've built up a library of imagery and story to the point that if someone goes to visit your feed, they can really see who you are and what you're selling, I think that consistency can drop a little, and it's okay, because you're going to have your wares online so people can see what you're selling. They're going to see what it is that you're all about. There's a history there that they can read through, and that kind of makes it okay. Yeah, so I used to post twice a week, no exception. I would always post, even if I felt like I didn't have anything to say, I would find something. And I think that is great because, you hear the mantra is consistency breeds legitimacy. And I do believe there is a lot to that. But then I also feel like when you're new, you also need to have the basics there. And once you've got those basics, you can kind of just like focus on other areas a little more and not worry so much about whether you're keeping up appearances and whether you're posting enough, because at the end of the day, if you're not posting, it's probably because you're busy working.
Yeah, this I guess is a really another topic, but I try to post daily, and
you're really good.
No, but what people don't, maybe they realize, I'm sure they have to realize this at some level. Like, I will take a bunch of pictures on one day, and then I'll have enough photos for like 2 to 3 weeks. And so
yes.
It's not like I'm coming up with content every single day. And that's part of the reason that I've let it slack, is because I have a ton of content already ready for January, and I can start leaking it now, but I am under contract with some other companies. And so I can't, and I don't have the time right now to come up with this new content. And so luckily, I do. Like, if you come visit my pages or any of my social media, you can see what I'm about. It's all right there. It's all laid out. And it's not, this is another topic too, but
like I think it is essential to create your content in bulk, and we should definitely go over this in another
and that's the other thing is, like, you don't go to my page and I don't have like my Christmas tree up, and I don't have, all of my family up. I don't have all of this stuff up. I'm totally doing that stuff, but it's not cluttering my business pages. And
yes, I don't put any personal stuff on my business profile.
Yeah, I do sometimes, but I try to make it relevant.
You do. It's always really relevant. And I think that's part of your brand. That's part of your storytelling. And that's what you should do.
Yeah.
I think there's also a difference when your profile has to be all original content if you're a maker. And so all of your artwork is curated and made by you. I think it's obviously harder than if you're just using stock photography, or you're posting random quotes and stuff. And I think, you know, that there is a time and place for that, definitely.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work for my business. It's not what my clients want to see. So I don't use that method. But it does mean that there is more work involved in creating the content, because it has to be original artwork.
I actually think it's harder to post stock photos because you have to, because then you have to be like for me, the captions when I post something that I've made are so easy, because it's like, here's what I made and why I made it and why you should care. And when it's a stock photo, it's like, well, I didn't take this and I don't really know exactly the background behind it. So, but it's pretty.
Yeah, it can feel kind of like disconnected.
Yeah.
But then I feel like every image that I put out there has to be so well designed, because that's what my clients are paying me for, is my design, my graphic design skills. And so if things aren't centered correctly, if the colors are off, if it doesn't show the work right, then I'd be better off not to post anything.
Can I tell you though, like sometimes I go through my Instagram feed and I'm like, these photos aren't good enough. And so I go through and archive them. And then I'm like, no, now my feed is not cohesive. It doesn't look right. Because I try to plan things out to be, I post like, there are 3 topics that I really post consistently on, and I try to stagger them so that you don't get like 10 cat photos in a row.
Yeah.
And so, but sometimes
I love the cat photos though.
Yeah, but sometimes when I go through and delete them, then all of a sudden like stuff is grouped together and I'm like, no.
I don't think you need to worry about posting too many pictures of cats, because I think in your line of business, lots of people have cats. It just goes well together, yarn and cats.
Oh, okay, fine. But also I do other, can I tell you, okay, sorry, side note, 2017 was the first year that, no, 2016, it was last, because whatever, 2016 was the first year that a picture of me beat out a picture of my cats for my top 9 photos on Instagram. And I was so excited.
That is really funny. Do you think that like a lot of your followers are really more interested in your cats? I mean, they must be, if this is the story.
Yes, they are 100% more interested in my cats than with me. Or at least, like, I think they care about me and they want to know what I'm doing, but they really want to look at my cats.
If only cats could buy patterns, you would just be...
Well, and you know, my cats, I think, are very interested in them as well. And because whenever I set up the cameras, one of my cats, Franklin, is like very photogenic, and he will just hop right on over and he's like, oh, are we doing this? Is it time for me to be in the picture? He's in half of my pictures because he's like, they want to see me, not you. And like, he's right. I don't know what to say.
I think you've created a brand and it involves your cats, and that is okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I still don't want to, even though it's the holidays, I still don't need to post like 10 pictures of my cats doing their thing. Anyway. Okay, so now that we've discussed everything that's going on in our lives, how are you keeping your business on track?
Okay. So personally, what I have found works is to prioritize. So as I was saying earlier, I have some print deadlines coming up. So for me, that means I really need to focus on getting my prints finished so that I can send them off to the printers so that they can arrive in time for me to cut them up and put the headers on and get them over to New York for the trade show. So even though I have 100 other things that I could be doing, that is now number 1 because of the actual physical deadline. So just looking at your list of things that you have to do and seeing what is it timeline wise that you need to get done first, and then working on that and just kind of working through it and just being really mindful about what it is that you need to do first, and what it is that, even though you would rather do it, is not a priority. Because if you don't prioritize and you just kind of dabble here and there doing a little bit of stuff, like, it's not going to help you when you run out of time.
That's a really great point. And one of the things that I love to do, in addition to scheduling things out, is I like to take like my end goal and break it out into a bunch of different steps and then schedule that in. And I don't mean schedule it in like Wednesdays from 8 to 10, I'm going to knit or something. But I will have, for example, like this week, I have to finish the sleeves and blocking for one of my cardigans. And I have broken out all of the steps to knitting a cardigan, and I assign it so that it's within the time frame, so I will get done before schedule. But I still have enough time, and I know that this week this is what needs to happen, and I have that broken out, so I can get it done.
Yeah, I think I mainly just look at what it is I have to do, and I make sure that the things that are absolute non-negotiables, like I do those and get those done. And then it's kind of like triage. You see what it is you have to do, you do it. And then if you've got time left over, then you can work on these, like, less important, but would be nice to have things like some extra graphics for your website or things like that aren't necessities, but you've been meaning to do. Whereas you could get really sucked into tweaking the copy on your website when really you have a deadline in a month that you don't realize is going to sneak up really quickly because you've got something happening, like you're moving house, or something's going on with your kids or your partner or your cats, or you don't know what. So I think really planning out your time, at least knowing a month in advance what it is that you've got commitment wise, and making sure that you've got enough time to do what you need to do. And if you don't, what can you get rid of and what do you need to focus on?
Yes, that's a really, really great point. Actually, I don't love it. I'm really bad at it. But what helps me get things done very, very quickly is focusing on the task at hand. And so that means, like, if I, have to, so let's just use the example for like my copy. If I need to work on my copy, then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to work on my copy. No Facebook, no telephone, no having multiple tabs open, no like being like, oh, well, I'll just read this email, or I'll just read this news article, or I'll just.
It doesn't work. Yeah, you can't do that.
Like the second, like it's okay, because like you're sitting there and like you're like you get distracted, and the distraction is okay. But what's not okay is if you follow that distraction.
Yeah.
And it's really hard and it's really frustrating, but like at the same time, I use that frustration. Like I really want to, respond to this email, but I have to finish this first and then I can respond,
Yes. Yeah. Or you'll think of something and you'll be like, oh, I need to research that. And you have this drive to kind of Google things.
Yeah.
That you have to fight when you're at a computer or holding a smartphone, and you just have to really focus. But I'm lucky in that when I'm designing, I just get really, really into what I'm doing. So it's easy to not get distracted by things like Facebook, because I'm genuinely like sucked into Photoshop and I am just doing Photoshop. There's nothing that can tear me away from that, like even my kids.
When I'm doing something that I love, I will get sucked in, and that's not a problem. But if I'm doing something that I don't want to be doing, but it has to be done, that's when all of the distractions happen. And so actually, yeah, it's super easy to Google something, but then that's also how you get sucked into that trail of like another project, another thing that you're doing. And so I actually keep a notepad next to me of things that I want to do, all of these ideas that pop into my head, and I'll just write them down so I don't forget them. And that way I know they're not going anywhere, and I don't have to follow that, that particular rabbit down that particular trail at that particular moment, because I like, this is important and this needs to be done.
Yeah, I do a similar thing, but I sketch things out. So if I have ideas for prints as I'm working on one print, I will go and start a new file and just sketch it out quickly as kind of like a visual marker so that I don't forget the idea, but then I'll go back to what I was doing, and then I'll know that I'm not going to forget it, but I don't get sucked into just doing that then and like forgetting what I was originally working on.
Right, because I think part of it is, there's two things. I think one is boredom and the other is fear that you're going to forget it. And actually, one of the things that I do when I'm out, this is going to sound maybe a little crazy, but like when I don't have access to like sketching or to drawing or to remembering, like, writing something down or getting it down on paper, what I'll do, this is going to sound super weird, but I swear it works, is I'm like, that's a really great idea. Please remind me in a few hours when I can do this. And I just say this to myself mentally. And the idea will pop back into my brain like a few hours later, like I've never had a problem. And, and then I can follow it at a more appropriate time.
I am very envious of that skill
It's
because I
not
do not have it.
it's not really a skill. I mean, I do think you get better. But it's just a trust thing because your brain is like a computer. And so it will, like, yes, you can forget things very easily, but if you're just like, no, like, I'm not going to forget this and I can be reminded of this, like your brain is like, okay, I'll just file that away. I mean, maybe if you have like memory problems or dementia, like maybe that won't work. I don't know. But it's like, it's the thing that your brain will do and people just don't realize it.
Yeah, I think if it's important enough, it will come back to you.
It's just like another thing that I do, actually, we can talk about. This is kind of relevant, actually. I forgot that I do this. I didn't have it written down to talk about. But like if there's a problem and I can't figure out how to solve it, I'm just like sometimes, yeah. Okay, so let me back up. So if there's a problem and I don't know how to solve it, I'm just like, listen, brain, this is everything I know about it. This is what I want it to be. You figure it out. And then I stop thinking about it and I go do something else. And that took some time. Like before it would take a few days. And now my brain can do it within an hour. It's so fast. And it's like, oh, here's the solution. Oh, Google this because this is how you're going to figure out the solution. And like the solution just pops into my brain and I don't have to like stress about it forever because that's what I was doing before. And it's like, I obviously don't know the answer. Maybe something in me does, and it does. It does. But yeah, I don't. And so worrying about it isn't going to fix it.
So I think with all of these topics we're going over, something really sticks out for both of us, which is the importance of self-care and how we need to, especially during the holidays when we're overworked as entrepreneurs, and also just like overstimulated with all the things we have to do, the events and the visitors and everything, that you really take time to look after yourself, because if you're not well, then you can't run your business. So you've really got to focus on self-care. What do you do, Kristen?
Yeah, so I do a few different things, and I actually really hold on, let me make a note. Okay, so I have quite a few different things because self-care is really, really important for me. I mean, it should be important for everyone, but I have a chronic illness. And so when I get stressed out, it'll flare up and then I'll get really, really, really sick. And then I definitely can't work and I definitely can't go out and party and have fun. And so it's of the utmost importance for me that I take care of myself.
Yeah.
And one of the things, actually probably the easiest thing that I do, and I don't know why more people don't do this, is I meditate every morning for 15 minutes a day. And I actually use an app. I use the Headspace app, and I've been using it for like 6 months maybe. It's the best thing that I have done in terms of my life. And so for those people who like, because I know most people don't meditate, and basically all you're doing is you're emptying those thoughts out of your brain. Or you can still have thoughts because it's kind of impossible to just completely stop thinking, but you're not following them. It's like I was mentioning before, like you're like, oh, I want to check Facebook. But I'm not going to do that right now. And so you do that when these thoughts pop into your brain. And so I just do it for 15 minutes a day, and it is so helpful. It is the most helpful thing to get me started and going and, having a really great day.
I'm going to give that a go because I'm really bad at voluntary meditation. I will do it unwillingly because I'm in a position where I don't have Wi-Fi or my children are asleep on top of me and I cannot move. And then I have no choice but to explore the thoughts that are in my head. And I do find it soothing and I do find it useful to think over these things that are at the back of my mind, and it is helpful, but I don't force myself to do it unless I have no option. So I feel like I could benefit from doing it your way, Kristen. So I'm going to give it a go.
I actually love the app because half the times I do, like, I'm not like, a monk, and I'm sure the monks can't do this either, because half the time I do chase those thoughts. Like, I'm really good at first, but 15 minutes can be a long time.
I'm a little worried to see where my thoughts would go if they were left to their own devices for 15 minutes without distraction. I almost don't want to know where they would go.
No, but you know where they go because you have them already. Like, what are you like? Before I started doing this, and this app has especially been helpful because, so like before, without the app, I would try and sit and be still and be quiet. And then eventually I would just start thinking, and then I was like, well, this isn't working, so I'm just going to get up and go. And so it wasn't as helpful as it could have been. But your thoughts are going constantly, and you don't even realize it until you start meditating, I think.
Yeah, that's true. They are going for 15 minutes at a time. I'm sure there are 15-minute periods where I'm not interrupted, but I'm just not aware of my thoughts. So yeah, I should.
Yeah, exactly. You're not aware of them, and meditation makes you aware of them, and that's like the first step to like getting them under control. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were saying that for you, it's really important to physically take care of yourself so that you can physically work. For me, it's much more of a mental thing that I think about. I try to not get bogged down when things are getting difficult or I have a lot of stuff that I have to do. So to make sure that I don't get into kind of a negative pattern, I do work a lot on mindset, and I do try and think positively. And I'm learning more and more about mindset. Kristen, you've been really helpful teaching me what you've learned as well. But just keeping perspective around what is possible to achieve with the resources and the time that I have, and not being hard on myself, especially over holidays when you don't have extra time or you're very drained. It's okay, like we were saying, to just slack a little on your social media posting. And it's okay if you're not creating as much work, because your mind just can't be working at 100% all the time. And you've just got to let yourself, even if you're not going to take an actual break, you've just got to let yourself run at a lower pace and be okay with that, and just accept it and not stress yourself out over it, and just realize that we all have our own limits, and just be realistic about what you can achieve at certain times of the year.
Right, exactly. I mean, so for me, the whole nature of this illness is like that was the most frustrating thing when I was diagnosed, was the doctors were like, we can give you medication and that can help, but really you just need to eliminate stress. And I was like, what kind of nonsense is that? Like, everyone has stress, but actually I have learned that I can really control how stressed out I get. And choosing to worry, choosing to be anxious, choosing to beat myself up about something, like, that's exactly it. It's all a choice. And this will tie back into meditation. Like, once you start to realize that those thoughts are going through your brain, that's when you can start to change them, because that's when you're like, oh, this is what I'm telling myself over and over and over again. And that's why I feel so bad. I'm in the middle of this book right now called Ask and It Is Given. And half of the book is full of exercises to do so that when you do have those bad thoughts and you are feeling bad, or just negative, I should just say negative in general, because it's not necessarily, but it's how to change that. It's how to improve that. And it's so helpful having a positive mindset. Like, that's something that you hear people say. And even though I love it, like, I still kind of roll my eyes at it, because it's just like but it's super, super, it's so important. It's super helpful.
Yes.
And once that's a skill. What we were talking about before, this is a skill that you have to practice. Yes.
No, I've recently surpassed the awareness stage, and now I'm starting on the retraining my brain synapses stage. So I, for the longest time, didn't really think about my thought patterns, and I was just, going on with my life. And then I did really start to analyze, what my negative thoughts were. And I realized I had a lot of negative thoughts, not just negative thoughts, but that I pick something to worry about and then I worry about it. And then when the problem is solved, I then move on to something else and worry about that.
Exactly.
So I've identified that, and now I'm able to identify every time I do it, and I'm working on trying to replace that with the positives to counteract the negatives.
Right. I mean, and that's really one of the things that's gotten me through, like, even this whole month is like when I list out everything that I have been going through, it's a lot. And a lot of people are like, how are you even, like, how are you so happy? Like, you must be so stressed out. And then, like, I'm not stressed out. I'm not stressed. Like, even just yesterday, just thinking about what I did yesterday, like before, like a year ago, that would have made me get really sick and I would have been in bed for like a week. And like, I'm fine. Like, I am not totally 100% fine, but like, I am like generally fine because I've been working so much on not getting stressed out.
Yeah.
Or I should say it a different way, I have been working on like ease and going with the flow
Yeah.
and letting, like, it's going to happen how it happens. And
Yes.
I, like, the only thing I can control is how I react.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
I've always been quite good with letting myself, you know, letting myself off when things are difficult and just accepting that things are difficult and it's okay that you can't be, great at everything. So, other than mindset work, which has been really helpful, I find that if I can just get some quiet time, I love taking baths now. That's something I never really used to do. Now I like to take nice hot baths
Mhm.
so I can get my body temperature up and then I can go sit in the office and work at night and not get cold. That really helps. So instead of just like battling on and feeling cold, I've learned to take care of myself better and have a hot bath so that will keep me hot for the rest of the night. Just little things like that you can, treat yourself and make things easier for yourself. So anything like that you can think of, definitely do.
Yeah, I'm definitely a huge fan of rewards. I also love taking hot baths. I love treating myself to, like, chocolate or something like that. But actually another thing, I just thought of this. Um Another really important thing for self-care is setting boundaries and saying no. When you're asked to do something you don't want to do, it doesn't matter how much you love that person. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. And learning to say no and learning to be okay with their disappointment and their being upset,
Yeah.
again, that's something that I always struggled with. And like this year, I'm just like, listen, this is how it's going to be. Like, I'm not changing this. And so that's been really huge too.
Yeah, I think, as you get more experience, you're able to differentiate between when something will really help with your business and when something won't, and you can't just say yes to everything. Someone was asking earlier today if I do deliveries, and I think this time a year ago I would have thought, oh, maybe I should do deliveries. Now I'm like, no, I'm sorry, we don't.
Well, I actually had someone who was like, "Can you do this thing for me? And I don't want to pay you. I don't want to pay you as much. I'm going to pay you this amount." And I was like, "Sorry, the price is the price." And so we ended up negotiating, and I settled on a rate that I'm really happy with. But like, imagine if I had said, like, taken that job and been like, "Oh, I don't want to do it. Oh, I'm not getting what I'm worth. I'm,
Yeah.
like that would have really upset me." And you have to stand firm.
Yeah, and the more times you do it and you do stand firm and then you actually get what you want, you realize it's so worth doing.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thing is, I think the fear is, again, it's like a fear of missing out or something. Like, if I don't get this, then I can't do this. And that's not the case. You're saying yes to something better. You're saying yes to you and no to what you don't want. And really, when you start to honor yourself, then that is how you start to succeed.
Definitely. I think we've covered some really interesting points today.
Mhm.
I'm really pleased that we're both concentrating on our self-care, and I hope you guys are concentrating on your self-care as well. And I'm looking forward to our next topic, which Kristen and I are going to discuss and get back to you guys on
Yes.
next Wednesday.
Mhm.
So I hope everyone has had a really great holiday and that you have had some time to, enjoy yourselves and that your business hasn't suffered for it. And we'll see you next week. If you want to sign up on the website, Kristen, go ahead and give the stats and the deets on that.
Yeah, so sign up for the website so you never have to miss an episode or check to see when it's out. You know exactly when it's going to be there. You can also subscribe on YouTube if you want to watch the videos. If you are interested in the podcast, we are on iTunes and Stitcher, and you can subscribe there as well.
And we are on Facebook and Instagram as FAB Entrepreneurs. So yeah, check us out and let us know if you have any comments or any questions or any suggestions for topics that we cover. We'd love to hear your opinion, and also just stories that you have about problems that you face with your business.
Yeah, we would love to hear how the holidays have been for you. And if you do have a topic or a question, go ahead and you can submit it to us. You can either submit it as a comment or a message, however you want to do it. And it's something that we can address in a future episode.
Cool. All right. Well, Happy New Year.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.